Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yider Insurance Group, Forward Corporation and T.R. McTaggart, Primal Tree Stands, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polarcraft Boats, Shadow Hunter Blinds, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. So glad to have you along with us as we once again celebrate this history and tradition of the great outdoors here in the great state of Michigan. And so glad to have you along with us. How has your week been since we last talked? Anything interesting? And I'm not talking about the rest of the world, right? On this show, as much as possible, we talk about the good stuff. We talk about the fun stuff. We talk about, for the most part, as absolutely much as possible, the non-controversial stuff. We talk about getting outdoors. We talk about hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping. We talk about getting outdoors. We talk about getting away from technology. We talk about getting away from the news. We talk about getting away from politics. We talk about getting away from stress. We talk about getting away from everything that has you cranked up and riled up and going into a better place physically and mentally. I don't think it's ever been more important than it is right now to have some kind of an outlet. And for many of us, the outdoors is that outlet. It's hard to be tense when you're hunting and fishing. Right? I mean, it's a way of life, yes, for many of us. For some people, it's just a casual hobby or a pastime, and that's fine. Everybody enjoys the outdoors in their own way. And that's one of the things I love about it. And you can take every piece of outdoor, every aspect of outdoor recreation, and you can look at it that way. For example, bow hunting. You can be very casual about it, and you can get yourself a crossbow and spend a day in the woods and have just as much fun as somebody who's shooting a recurve who spent hundreds of hours practicing to get ready for that hunt. Your 3-hour sit in a tree stand is just as enjoyable as anybody's 3-hour sit in a tree stand. Or you can go fishing. I love to fish. I love to fish Saginaw Bay walleye. I don't pretend to be very good at it, but nobody enjoys it any more than I do. I catch my fair share of fish, but on the days when it's tough, I can't compete with these guys who go out there and they dissect the resource. They look at the barometric pressure and the wind and the lunar phase and all this. I mean, they think like a fish. I don't do that. But I enjoy fishing as much as anybody. I enjoy hunting as much as anybody. The outdoors is a very personal, very intimate experience, if you want it to be. Or you can get together with a bunch of buddies, go out and chase cottontails with beagles and have it be a social event where you're all joking around and slapping each other on the back and making fun of each other when you miss a shot. I mean, it is what you want it to be. And it's a big part for many of us. It's a big part of how we identify ourselves. Have you noticed the days are getting longer? I really notice it in the evening. I notice it in the morning. I try to go out and walk 3 to 4 miles every morning. And I leave when it's dark, and I get home when it's starting to get light. So I'm noticing it there, but I'm really noticing it in the evenings. And it's welcome. I like to see that because it means we're starting to make the move into a different season. Now, if I was a hardcore ice fisherman, I probably wouldn't want to see that. But my mind right now, I got to be honest, is starting to look at turkey season. I am already excited and geeked about turkey season. In my world, I go from turkey season to walleye season to bear season to a little bit of deer hunting. And that's what my outdoor seasons revolve around. But here in Michigan, we are so blessed that there are so many different opportunities. For example, right now, this time of year, what do you want to do? Do you want to go ice fishing or spearing? Spearing, I think, is so cool. Pike spearing is such a part of our Michigan outdoor history. I hear these stories of guys who sit in a shack and they're spearing with a spear that was their dad or was their grandpa's. I mean, how cool is that? How nice is that to be able to have a piece of your family outdoor history in your hand and know this is something your dad used, your grandpa used? I think that's wonderful. Maybe you're out trapping this time of year. Trapping is an absolutely time-honored and respected outdoor tradition, in my opinion. And there is nobody more knowledgeable in the outdoors than trappers. I mean, think about this. If you're deer hunting with a rifle, all you got to do is get a deer within 100 yards. If you're deer hunting with a bow, 20 yards, okay? And you have a chance at getting the animal. But if you're trapping, you have to take the critter that you are targeting and get it to step into an 1.5 by 1.5 hole or swim through a 4x4 grid or whatever. And to do that, you have to have an intimate knowledge of the outdoors and the critters that you're after. So I think trapping is very cool. Maybe you're out predator hunting this time of year. That has grown tremendously here in Michigan. When I was a kid growing up, I never heard of predator hunting. Nobody went out and shot coyotes, hunted coyotes, because there weren't that many around, for one thing. But now predator hunting, especially in the wintertime and especially at night, has turned into something that bigger than I've ever dreamed it would be. And it's gone so high tech with the thermal scopes and such. I mean, it's pretty cool what these guys do, and it's necessary. I'm not one of those people who say kill all the predators. In fact, I cringe when I hear people say kill them all, whether it's wolves or coyotes or what. Kill them all. I think that is a statement that makes us as hunters look bloodthirsty and ignorant. And we as hunters are not bloodthirsty or ignorant. So when we make a statement like that, it reflects poorly on us as a community. And, I kind of hate that word community. I think community is like one of these buzzwords. I hate community as a group. But there's no doubt that we need to have predator hunters out there to keep that population down as much as possible. Or maybe you're small game hunting, like I was talking earlier. I mean, what is more fun than hearing a couple of beagles chase a rabbit around in circles while you sit there with a shotgun and just watch the action? Or, like when I was a kid, we never had dogs, so I was the dog. I was the one stepping on the brush piles. But you remember this, right? I mean, I remember walking out there with a 20-gauge Stevens single-shot shotgun, obviously, looking for tracks, rabbit tracks, and stepping on every brush pile that I could find in hopes that a rabbit would jump out. And sometimes they did, and sometimes I shot them, and more often than not, I missed. But how fun is that? How cool is that? Or maybe, coming up here pretty soon, you might be shed hunting. And I'm not talking about looking for these enclosures in your backyard. Shed, whitetail antlers. I'm already hearing some reports of bucks starting to drop their racks here in Michigan. It's a little bit early yet. And that is an activity that will go on into March even. In the next couple of weeks, I'll have somebody here on the show to talk about this whole process of shed hunting. It's very rewarding. It's a lot of fun. It's great exercise. It's fun for the kids. You don't have to be quiet. You can keep an eye on your deer herd to see what bucks made it through the winter, yada, yada, yada. You know the reasons for it. But there's just so many different outdoor activities. And as the seasons progress, as we get closer to spring, that list of options and opportunities and adventures will change and evolve into a different set. We'll get into summer and the same thing over. Same thing over and over. We live in a great state. I'm telling you, I love this state when it comes to our outdoor recreational opportunities. I am a Michigan fanboy, and I make no apologies for that. There are other places that have a lot to offer as well, but when you look at Michigan, I think we have one of the most unique combinations of different outdoor activities available to us, and I am so glad. I am so thankful and blessed that my parents decided to end up here in Michigan, and so therefore I decided to end up here in Michigan. Well, I didn't make the decision, did I? Never regretted it, never looked back. I do hope, though, that whatever outdoor activities you are interested in don't involve ammunition, unfortunately. And I'll talk more about this in this week's Ask Avery segment at the end of hour number 2. I never dreamed that the ammo shortage would get as severe as it is right now, and don't look for it to go away anytime soon. But at the end of the second hour, I'll look a little bit more in depth about some of the factors involved in this, and take a look into the crystal ball as I talk with different experts in the industry, their best guess as to when we might be able to get out of this. Oh, looking forward to Canadian hunts this year. Probably not going to happen. I wish it would. Coming up on this week's Outdoor Magazine show after the break, I hope to check in. It's still up in the air, but I hope to check in with Mike Hoadley of Michigan-based Predator Bows. We got the word last week they were closing their doors. I want to talk about that. Elliot Schafer of the Michigan Wildlife Council checks in. In hour number 2, we're talking trapping with Mark Spencer of the Michigan Trappers and Predator Callers Association. Maia Turek from the DNR talking about their 100th anniversary celebration. And in hour number 3, fishing with Brad Smyth of Detroit Outdoor Adventures and, of course, wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Minar. That's this week right here on Outdoor Magazine. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. So glad to have you along with us. You can hear the show in Alpena on WZTK. That's 105.7 FM. You can hear us in Traverse City on WTCM 580 AM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Newberry on WNBY 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Boning Archery. Michigan-based Boning Archery celebrating 75 years in the archery industry. What a tremendous accomplishment that is. Congrats to everybody at Boning Archery. Family-owned, Michigan-based. Roland Boning invented ferrultite in 1946 to glue broadheads to, at the time, wooden arrow shafts. These days, Boning continues to innovate, come up with new products. I like to say they make everything for bows and arrows except bows and arrows, although this year they have come out with some 75th anniversary special arrows that are actually being made by other companies, but as part of the Boning celebration. Keep an eye on their website, which is boning.com, BOHNING.com, boning.com, and their Facebook page as well to learn more about what's going on there. But 75 years in the archery industry. Michigan has obviously a very, very rich history and tradition in the archery and bow hunting world. I mean, think about Roland Boning was there, Fred Bear, of course. You've got Dart and Archery, been around forever. Recently sold, but it looks like they're going to stay open. Predator Bows, Hunter's Niche. Another very well-known Michigan archery company. I have been hunting the last couple of years, or at least the last year for sure, with a Predator recurve bow by Hunter's Niche, made for me by Mike Hoadley. We got word last week that Predator was closing their doors, which kind of broke my heart. But listen, things happen, things evolve. And I wanted to check in with Mike to see, a little bit more about the company, what's next, talk about archery in general, and have we gone too far in technology? And he has graciously granted me some time. So, Mike Hoadley, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Good, Mike. How about yourself?
I'm doing real good. Always a pleasure to talk with you. The word that the doors were being closed took me by surprise. Is that something that had been in the works for a while, Mike?
Yeah, it had been in the works. No decision like that comes very lightly or very quickly, for that matter. So, of course, 2020 being a challenging year for everybody, and no more than small businesses. And then, you take a segment of small businesses, which is our archery community, if you will. Just a lot of hurdles, along with, as the originator of Predator bows, Ron Pitsley, passed away 3 years ago, and that was another thing that kind of added to the mix, if you will, for what brought about this decision.
Kind of the perfect storm. I mean, the imperfect storm. Just a lot of things coming at you all at once.
You got it from every direction.
Now, you mentioned, your piece of the archery world being fairly small. I feel like traditional archery is kind of on the rebound a little bit, but there's the numbers just can't compete with the folks with compounds and crossbows and these big mega corporations these days, I would imagine.
Sure. And yeah, traditional archery, we always hear the sayings, it's on the incline or it's on the decline. But one good thing about it is it's seemingly steady, meaning, when crossbows became the law of the land, some people that had never archery hunted before took to the woods. I think that's a great thing. We had a lot of compound hunters, though, that also, made that technological leap as well, because that's, a technical arena of archery, meaning compounds and crossbows. But our market itself stays steady because, quite frankly, as you know now that you've got the bug, that you hunt with a recurve or a longbow for a particularly different set of reasons and nostalgia factors than you would with a compound or a crossbow.
And with a compound or crossbow, my experience has been I was always chasing technology. I always wanted the newest, the fastest, whatever. So every, year, 2 years, whatever, sure, I wanted a new bow. Mike, I don't see a reason ever to hunt with a different bow than what you've given me, made for me with that Predator. I mean, you don't turn these things over every year. So just the basic business model of being in traditional archery, you got to realize your people look at their bows as keepsakes, and they're not necessarily buying a new one every year. Yeah,
that's and you're spot on. That's absolutely another challenge. So there's kind of a right and left hand to that. One, you're absolutely right. You get these, and it's not turned over year after year with the new technology. Now, we do some different things, and of course, we hope that, the bow in your hand, promotes you want another one. Because I would say traditional bow hunters and just archers alike, target archers, when it comes to traditional gear, that bow is more than just a tool. It's also a piece of art. So the mentality becomes more like all of us gun nuts. People that have a Predator, they may very likely have a Black Widow and a Bob Lee and a Sky Archery or what have you. And it's more of a collective thing. And then they've always, just like a gun, you've got that go-to thing that comes out of the safe on November 14th, So that's one side of it. So we get more of a collector mentality out there, which means we're not pigeonholed to just, one brand loyalty. But the other hand of that is, just like you stated too, is, those that don't have that mentality and they just have their go-to thing and they're serious about hunting and archery. Yeah, they have one or two Predators or one or two Black Widows, and that's their go-to. And again, you don't get the repeat customers year after year based just on brand loyalty and following and chasing the technology.
If I was to pick up a Bob Lee or a Black Widow and shoot that, would I feel a distinct difference between shooting a Predator?
Yeah, I mean, you would, particularly when you first pick them up. I mean, Ron, back 30 years ago did a tremendous job of doing what most better mousetrap mentality people do. Is he took a conglomeration of everything that was good in the industry at that time. You'll notice the across the room look of a Predator has kind of that old Bear Super Kodiak look, with the stripes and that. So that's a nostalgic look that really appealed to a lot of archers and really was heartfelt by Ron himself. But then you get into the mechanics, and that is where he really shined as far as, figuring out how to make it not just perform, but to draw smooth and be easy to shoot. So not to say that, it's just superior in every way, but it is a very easy to shoot, high performance bow.
I remember when I first met you and Ron Pitsley, and this is I think almost 30 years ago, Mike. You guys were at Darton because for a while, Predator bows were under the wing of Darton. I mean, it didn't last very long, but that's where I first met you guys.
Yeah, yep. At that time, Ron was reintroducing traditional archery to that dealer base and got the exclusive distribution rights through Darton, of course. And I was the customer relations manager. And if you've got time, I'm gonna reflect a little bit on one of the first times we met. I don't know if it was the first time.
Yeah.
But it was a time when Darton Archery was just coming out with a controlled power system, CPS, and the new flagship bow was the Maverick. So this had to have been in like the mid '90s. And you had come up and you were doing a segment for your television program. And I remember, okay, I have this new Maverick. It's set up, sights, and tuned and ready to rock. And so if you remember right, Darton on the outside of the parking lot there had kind of a strip of woods, and there was a little 3D course kind of tied into that. And, you wanted to be right in the thick of things, if you will. And so I've got the bow, and we get out there, and we did a quick interview, me holding the bow, and you says, "Well, let's get a few shots of you shooting this technological marvel." So, okay, yep, I'm ready for that. So as I'm getting in my stance, you start walking towards the target. So you get down to the target, and I'm still at the stakes, and you never told me to move closer or anything. You went down there, and you hovered over that 3D deer target with your lens focused on the vitals, and you just kind of looked up and said, "I'm comfortable if you are." and of course, I shot a half dozen shots, and luckily you're still around.
Well, so that does speak to my confidence level in you. But kids, don't try this at home.
Exactly.
I used to do a lot of kind of dumber stuff when I was younger, Mike.
Yeah, but you got some great shots, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what happens now? I mean, is somebody going to buy the company? Can I still buy a Predator bow? Can I get different limbs for my Predator? What's the future look like?
Unfortunately, at this time, no. How that would transpire in the future, of course, we can never look into the crystal ball and answer those questions. But as it is, we're closed. We were doing some other specific techniques and processes in the shop with bow strings and the wood impregnation portion or wood stabilization, and we were able to kind of divide up. We sold the string business as well as the wood stabilization business and the real estate that we housed. What kind of drove the ship faster than that was, in making these decisions and kind of breaking things up to be easier pills to swallow in a purchasing environment, was the real estate sold first. So that really, pushed everything else along maybe faster than I was comfortable with, and of course, a lot of forced emotions of the realities, that, okay, this is really going down the tracks. This is really where it's going. And with the bow portion itself, a much harder sale, if you will. One, you've been into our shop and you realize that, you can count those that were set up the way we were on one hand in the traditional archery market. I mean, those names include, Bear Archery, Black Widow. So we were really set up to be a manufacturer of traditional bows.
Mike, hang tight. Listen, I'm so sorry to cut you off in the middle of a statement like that, but I do have to take a break. Hang tight through the break. I want to let you finish that thought and some more questions from Mike Hoadley of Hunter's Niche Archery. You can still find him on Facebook. Facebook is Hunter's Niche /Predator Bows. You can find him on Facebook. A great Michigan company, a great product. We'll talk more with Mike Hoadley after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in St. Joe on WSJM 94.9 FM. You can hear us in Tawas on WIOS AM and FM 1480 AM 106.9 FM. And you can hear us in Iron Mountain on WMIQ 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Speedy Blaze. Speedy Blaze is a safe, clean, water-resistant alternative to firewood. It's safe to cook over because it's made from recycled hardwood. You can use it in your fire pit, your fireplace, your grill. I mean, any place you can put a fire, you can use Speedy Blaze. It's water-resistant. It is insect-resistant. That means you can transport it around the state, across the country, no problems there. Check them out online at speedyblaze.com. That's speedyblaze.com. And every Wednesday night, on Wednesday Night Live, we'll be giving away some Speedy Blaze, at least for the next few weeks coming up. The website, speedyblaze.com. I love working with Michigan-based family-owned companies. And that's why I enjoyed my relationship so much with the folks at Predator Recurve Bows out of Tawas, Ron Pitsley and Mike Hoadley. Ron is 3 years, just about right now. He's passed away, and Mike did a wonderful job running the company for those past 3 years. But he made the tough decision here very recently that it was time to move on to something else. And Mike, as you were saying before the break, that's, it was probably literally blood, sweat, and tears. So it was not a decision made easily.
No, not at all. And on that, we were talking about the difficulty of being able to sell that as an entity. You've been in the industry long enough, to know that, when you're promoting a certain brand, you're not receptive to taking on a competitive brand under the same house. Like, sure. For example, at our level, like I was talking about with the amount of the equipment and the way we're set up, we weren't big by no means, but not small either. So we were right there in that difficult middle spot. And with that being said, selling as an entity, it's like, well, anyone that was kind of big enough to be able to take this on with the distribution that we had established, would compete with something that they've already been trying to brand for however long they've been in existence, meaning the Bob Lees and the Black Widows and whatnot. So it just wasn't a feasible business decision for folks like that. So then you got the other hand, which would be, just like how we started, with some passion and some elbow grease, or I should say how Ron started even before me. But with that being said, now you've got that startup person, and we're kind of overbuilt for that. Mm-hmm. So it makes it difficult.
Yeah,
It'd be hard to house what we've built in a small barn behind your house or in your basement or what have you. So the entity sale has been next to impossible. So thus far, it has been impossible. However, we are, liquidating some of the machinery. However, I'm retaining a certain amount of that. And the branding, meaning the jigs, the forms, and the actual identity of Predator Bows. And I am going to relinquish that back to the Pitsley family, because that's where it started. Mm-hmm. So if there's a future of that, it'll be, through their involvement. So that's kind of where we're at now, Mike.
So are my Predators going to become collector's items?
Well, I do not know. I think they were right from the day they were.
Well, that's a good point.
My opinion, of course. And I know I'll always cherish the ones that I have in my hands as much as you will.
Wow. Absolutely. It's a cliche. One door closes, another one opens, yada, yada, yada. But
sure,
it does. It opens up a lot of horizons for you personally, I would imagine.
Yeah, sure. Well, you've already pointed out we've known each other for nearly 30 years, so we've already determined that I'm not a real young guy, but I'm not an old guy either. And I'm just we've reached a point, and over the last few years, I've become very involved with my community. I've been on our city council for several years. I'm on just about every board and committee in our community, as well as with our county as well, Aranac County, where I live. And here, more recently, a year ago, I actually became the mayor of the city of Eau Gray.
Ah, Mr. Mayor. Well, congrats.
Well, thank you. So I've become really ingrained in our community, with all the political turmoil and the virus turmoil and everything. Just seeing a more of a need for us all to come together at the grassroots or the community level, rather than, it trickling down from government and having government, needing to, rein in on its big white horse and save us all. It has to go in the opposite direction, meaning from community up. So I've been really committed to that, as well as, the last 3 years of carrying on predator bows. Quite the juggling act.
Well, I can only imagine, yeah.
So the future, what it holds, I'm not 100% certain. I'll let a lot of other things and prayers as well kind of decide that for me. But yeah, I think the bottom line is I'll still remain a name that you're going to hear from time to time.
Wonderful, Mike. Listen, congrats on everything that you and Ron and the Pitsley family accomplished over the years. You made a tremendous impact in the archery industry, especially the world of traditional archery. You've got a lot to be proud of. I will cherish every minute in the stand, in the blind with my predators, and I wish you nothing but luck into the future. Thank you, Mike Hoadley.
Thank you, Mike.
Again, if you want to check out Predator, they still have a Facebook page, and folks are making posts there. Facebook, Hunter's Niche / Predator Bows. And again, I love my Predator bow. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, we'll check in with Elliot Schafer of the Michigan Wildlife Council right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Sandusky on WMIC AM and FM, 660 AM, 95.3 FM. You can hear us in Port Huron on WPHM, 1380 AM, and north of the bridge in the Sioux on ESPN 1400 WKNW. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination and your Mid-Michigan Tracker and Angler Quest headquarters. For more info, check them out online at linwoodbeachmarina.com. That's linwoodbeachmarina.com. I want to turn our attention now to a group that I've worked with for the last couple of years, and I support their efforts. It's the Michigan Wildlife Council. The website is here for mioutdoors.org. They were formed to promote hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping here in Michigan, and let people know that those ventures are necessary, viable, fun, and a great way to fund conservation. Elliot Schafer was named to the board last June, if I remember right, and he joins us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Elliot, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thanks, Mike. I'm glad to be here. Appreciate all that you do for the great outdoors in the state of Michigan.
Well, that's nice of you to say. And I learned as we were setting up this interview here a couple of minutes ago, you're on kind of an outdoor adventure yourself right now. Tell us about it.
Yeah, sure. So, with work from home, I've spent a couple of days down in Florida seeing my parents and my wife and kids. And I've got some customers down in Florida, so I took them out on a sport fishing charter. We're catching some sailfish and targeting things about a mile offshore from Palm Beach today. So it's a beautiful day, nice and sunny, and having a little luck too. So it's been fun.
Ah, wonderful. It does sound like fun. We all love our great state of Michigan, but it's nice once in a while to check out an outdoor adventure somewhere else.
Yeah, no doubt about it, especially when it's warm.
Yeah, well, yeah, we could use that right now. So, Elliot, listen, tell me about the efforts of the council. Are you making an impact? Is this a job that will continue for a while, or do you feel like you've reached your goals at this point?
No, there's a lot of work to be done. And the pandemic is obviously, we've seen a great increase in anglers and hunters in the state as it's, first of all, very, very important for the economy, but, I'd say mental health, getting people outside, enjoying the outdoors and seeing parts of Michigan that they don't typically see. We've had some great success, specifically in the women hunters and fishers. Those numbers have skyrocketed this year, so it's great to see. A lot of work to be done yet, but it's been fun. Obviously, I've only been on the council here for a couple of months, so I'm still getting my feet wet, but enjoying it very much.
How does somebody end up on the council? How does that happen?
Just first of all, you got to have great enthusiasm for and a passion for the great outdoors. And the biggest issue I see for hunters is opportunity, right? And so opportunity and education. So the Wildlife Council is obviously focused on increasing those numbers for both, and it's a passion of mine. So if I can give back in any way, it was easy for me to take it along.
Wonderful. And the goal is to, can we say it succinctly that the goal is to increase awareness of and promote and encourage involvement in outdoor recreation in Michigan? Is that too simplistic?
No, I would say that's, you got to have a mission statement, right? And I think that's pretty close to defining what we're doing. And we've got a great marketing firm out of Lansing, good marketing. They've done a tremendous job for us in helping raise awareness. And but no, not simplistic at all. And I think that's exactly what we're doing.
When I talk to my friends in northern Michigan or the UP, and I talk about the Wildlife Council and what you guys are involved in, they say, well, of course it's important, of course, because there is an outdoor mindset there in that part of the state. But, and I think maybe that's why you've had to concentrate much of your message in the southern part of the state, right, to reach people who aren't necessarily of an outdoor mindset like many of the rest of us are.
Absolutely, yeah. Folks in northern Michigan and some of those other areas really won't see our message, and so sometimes they don't understand what we're out here doing. Target markets are typically southeast Michigan, west Michigan, sort of northern central Michigan, but it's getting our message out and increasing awareness.
Well, at one time there was talk of maybe changing the message a little bit to try to reach out to hunters and anglers, but it's like preaching to the choir, isn't it?
A little bit, certainly, not everybody knows everything, but I think Good has done a fantastic job with the statewide survey. We've got another survey coming out here in the next meeting at the end of February. I'd encourage people to dial in and listen to. You can join that meeting at our website here for mioutdoors.org. But it's there's a lot of work to be done. Certainly, anglers and hunters need continued education, but certainly not the target market that we're going after.
Elliot, I didn't realize that was an option. I will do that because I'd like to check that out myself. I appreciate you interrupting a couple of days off and interrupting your fishing trip out there for sailfish. It sounds like a lot of fun. Keep up the good work at the Michigan Wildlife Council, and I look forward to talking with you soon.
Thanks, Mike, and thanks for all you do as well. Appreciate it.
I appreciate that. Elliot Schafer of the Michigan Wildlife Council, the website here for mioutdoors.org, here for mioutdoors.org. How cool is that? I have had the opportunity to go marlin fishing and sailfish fishing before, and it's a far cry from trolling for Saginaw Bay walleye, I'll tell you that. But it is a lot of fun. So thank you to Elliot Schafer. Here for mioutdoors.org is the website. We'll take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back, we're going to talk about trapping with Mark Spencer of the Michigan Trappers and Predator Callers Association. Maia Turek from the DNR talks about their 100th anniversary. And this week's Ask Avery, more on the ammo shortage right here on Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yider Insurance Group, Forward Corporation and T.R. McTaggart, Primal Tree Stands, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polarcraft Boats, Shadow Hunter Blinds, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, and welcome to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show right here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network. So glad to have you along here on the radio show. And I say that because there's so much confusion these days between radio and podcasting. I hear from people all the time, hey, I listened to the podcast of your show. I'm like, great, where'd you listen to it? And they give a radio station. I said, that wasn't the podcast. That was the radio show you listened to. And they say, well, what's the difference? Well, the difference is that the show is designed, recorded, produced, and distributed originally as a radio show on almost 30 stations across the great state of Michigan. And I always say the best way to listen, if you can, is on your local AM or FM station. Because for one thing, the radio stations get the content of the show before I upload the podcast. But you can also hear your local news, weather, and sports. Maybe there's an ad or a sale you want to take advantage of. But if your local affiliate doesn't carry all 3 hours of the show, and this is a 3-hour show, or if you live in some part of our state not covered by the broadcast signal, the footprint of the radio show, it's nice to know that the podcast is an option. And the podcast is nothing more than the audio, the sound from the radio show made available somewhere other than on your local radio station. So then the question then becomes, well, where do you listen to it? You can go to my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I put it there every week along with just about all of my other content. It goes through that website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. You can find it on the Facebook, the Mike Avery Outdoors Facebook page. I'm on Amazon Music. Audible is a new addition. I appreciate that very much. It's also on my Twitter feed, if you're on Twitter. Is anybody on Twitter anymore besides politicians? I really don't think they are, but I put it out there anyway. It's on LinkedIn. It's on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, Player FM, Deezer, Radio.com. It's even on YouTube. Anywhere you get your podcasts from, you can hear the podcast version, of the Outdoor Magazine radio show. Also want to point out that I have a podcast network that is nothing but podcasts. I do monthly podcasts for Jay's Sporting Goods, Offshore Tackle, Angler Quest Boats, Killer Food Plots, Polar Craft Boats, a quarterly podcast for MUCC. And we've just this past week, we recorded the very first Beyond the Blind podcast for Shadowhunter Blinds. So a lot of great content out there as well. I would encourage you to check that out if you can. I was saying earlier in the show that I have so much respect for trappers. I think it's such a big part of our history and tradition, our outdoor heritage here in Michigan. I remember my dad as a kid. We had a shed behind the house. And I remember gangs, big bundles, big groups of traps, muskrat traps, that he would. I think I remember him boiling them, and I think that was to get the scent off. But he was an avid muskrat trapper, and I was very, very young at the time, and I don't ever remember going out on a trap line with him. But I was fascinated by the whole concept, the whole process. And I have nothing but respect for trappers because I think they are, again, the most knowledgeable outdoorsmen and women in the outdoors here in Michigan today. Mark Spencer is a trapper. He's also president of the Michigan Trappers and Predator Callers Association, their website, mtpca.com. And Mark is with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Mark, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Pretty good, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing real good, real good. So tell me a little bit about trapping in Michigan today. How would you describe it?
Trapping today in Michigan is not like it was, 200 years ago. Mainly now it's hobby trappers. You very rarely have full-time trappers unless they're doing damage control work. And that reason is that the seasons ain't very long and the money's really not there to sustain a family as a full-time trapper.
What kind of value? I'm sorry. What kind of value do you get on a fur these days? Like a beaver. What's a beaver skin?
Somewhere between 15 and 30.
And how does that compare to the old days as far as price?
80 to 120.
There you go.
In equivalent money. It was back then. It was probably $5-10, but it would be 80 to 120 now.
Mm-hmm.
And the like beaver and like coon, you're looking at anywhere $5 to $10 on the average. You'll get a few into the in the 20s, but not a lot. Muskrats are somewhere between $2 and $4. You know, and in fact, 10 years ago, muskrats were at $14.
10 years ago.
Yeah, when the Chinese were starting to get into the market. But you know, the world economy's been down, and now there's with COVID and everything else, everything's full and shut down. So the market is basically non-existent, except for a few things.
That's a lot of work. A lot of work for $4 on a muskrat.
Yep. Yep. But you know, and it's really a lot of work for beaver for $15.
I see. I remember beaver being like a real prized catch, a real trophy back when they were, well, like you say, back when they were worth something.
Yeah, and you know, there was a lot of trappers out there after them, and now there's not very many people out there after them, and they're everywhere. They're from Keweenaw Peninsula down to Coldwater. There's beaver everywhere.
Yeah.
And so, but you know, there's really no market for them. So unless they're doing damage to something, nobody really goes after them.
But there's a critter that really does do some damage.
Oh yes, that is a high. They are engineers. When they decided to do something, it will get flooded. No problem at all. And they'll chew down your prize tree if you will let them.
So in a nuisance control situation, then, is it the homeowner, the landowner who calls you guys in? Is it the county, the township? How does that work?
It all depends. Like if it's on private land, it's going to be the landowner. The county or the road commissions will do it if it's going to damage the roads. All right. And if they're a nuisance, become a nuisance like coyotes and all that, cities or state might call people in.
You bring up coyote. That's a whole different situation there, isn't it? I mean, our state is overrun with coyotes right now.
Yeah, the lower Michigan is well overrun. There's not a lot up here in the UP as many as there was 10, 15 years ago, but we have wolves up here. So
I was just going to ask if that's from the wolves.
Yep. You know, they're basically competing for the same food source. One's at 30 pounds, the other one's at 80 pounds. Guess who wins?
Yeah, well, and let me ask you, Mark, I've heard conflicting thoughts on this, and you would be a man who would know. Will coyotes and wolves live in the same area, or do wolves drive the coyotes right out?
Well, in my experience, you know, because I live up here in the UP, and normally I have a new pack of coyotes every year. They raise their young just behind my place back there. And come around June, you can hear them out taking the young ones out to teach them how to hunt. They'll yip and yip, yip, yip every night. And all of a sudden, they'll stop. You don't hear them at all. And then I'll go out there and look, and there'll be a wolf tracks where they just took the little ones and they ran. And then as long as the wolf's there, they're not there. When the wolves leave, they come right back.
If we ever get a wolf hunt in the UP, I hope and pray they open it up to you guys as trappers, because
well, that's the only way you're going to manage it.
Exactly, because when we had the wolf hunt before, they didn't even hit their quota. But if we got trappers out there, you guys could make an impact.
Yes, we can. I mean, you know, every year wolves get caught in traps, and we have to release them. All right. I mean, every year, coyote trappers catch a wolf up here. They're going to be there. They eat the same scent, so you put the bait out for a coyote, a wolf's going to be there if he's around. All right, and so we'll catch them. We have to release them now, or they'll release themselves. If you're using a small enough trap, they'll pull right out.
I got to take a break here, Mark, but I want to follow up on that. I want to talk to you about what it's like to walk up on a wolf in a trap, and then this whole concept of using the right trap. Can you stick around for a few minutes?
Sure.
All right, we're talking with Mark Spencer, who's the president of the Michigan Trappers and Predator Callers Association. Their website, mtpca.com, MTPCA for Michigan Trappers and Predator Callers Association, mtpca.com. It's a fascinating activity. It's not something, as Mark said, that you do for money. You do it for fun. You do it for the passion. You do it for the exercise. You do it for the tradition. And they're still viable out there today, maybe not as many, and they're not doing it for the money. They're not doing it to make a living. But you know what? We're not hunting or fishing for a living, right? Either, right? So it's all part of this outdoor heritage that we have here in the great state of Michigan. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the show in Battle Creek on WBCK, that's 95.3 FM. You can hear the show in Caro on WKYO, 1360 AM and 92.1 FM, WIDL. And you can hear us in Marquette on WDMJ, 1320 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by MUCC's On the Ground program. OTG is a program to improve habitat for fish and wildlife across the state. For details, check out the Michigan United Conservation Club's website. It's mucc.org. That's mucc.org. And a reminder, if you want to save 25% on your MUCC membership or renewal, you can use the promo code Mike, all caps, M-I-K-E, all caps, M-I-K-E, and save 25% on your MUCC membership. Talking right now with Mark Spencer. Mark is with the Michigan Trappers and Predator Callers Association. Obviously, he's a trapper himself. He's president of that group, by the way. Their website, mtpca.com, mtpca.com. Mark, before the break, you teased me a little bit here with something you said. Every once in a while, your guys will find a wolf in the UP in one of their coyote traps. That's got to be an interesting situation.
Yes, it is. Especially if it's a big one. You know, you're sitting around 100 pounds looking at you, you go, wait a minute now.
Yeah.
But most of the time they are pretty docile when they're in the trap. You know, you can talk to them and you can get to them. And I know when we've let them out with the DNR, throw the catch pole on them and pop the crap off them, and they most of the time just run away.
Do you have to call in the DNR when you get one in your trap, or can you release them on your own?
Some people release them on their own. I won't.
I don't blame them.
I've seen them bite people, so no, I won't.
No. Oh man, you said a catch pole. What is that?
Catch pole is basically a 5-foot pole with a cable around it and a noose, and you tighten it on there. So
gotcha.
Then they just hold them there while you release the trap.
Gotcha.
That way you control the head.
Yeah, all right, I understand. You also said something earlier about the importance of using the right trap. Now, people who aren't trappers, a lot of them aren't going to realize that there are different traps for different critters.
Oh yes, like. When I first started coyote trapping with my dad and all that, we used number four double long springs. That's your standard Victor trap that you see in most pictures are. That is strong enough to hold most wolves. I mean, all the way up to 100 pounds we've caught them with that trap. All right? But the biggest problem with that is they usually tear up everything when they're in that trap. I mean, they'll take off, they'll ruin the set, and they'll take off and get caught up with the drag, and then you have to, you lost that set.
Mm-hmm.
Or, now I've had them where they'll get mad and they got enough jaw strength in their jaws that they've can bend steel.
Oof.
They've destroyed the trap. So, they are a very, very strong animal. So they'll put things. So we started dropping down in sizes, and all it does is reduces the jaw size and the strength of the springs, so that if a wolf gets in it, normally just pull his foot right out of it and not destroy the area around the trap, so you can reset it for a coyote later.
I think some people too have this impression, who've never seen a trap, they think of this jagged jawed trap like you would see in a cartoon or the old days. But these traps aren't like that, are they?
No, in fact, jawed traps are illegal in the state of Michigan. We were one of the associations that drove to get that removed, so you couldn't use them on land, or you can use them at all. So basically, they're wall hangers for people to put on the wall, and that's all they're used for. And a lot of traps will have they call them soft jaws or rubber jaws. They have a rubber lining on them to help picking of the skin.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of if the people are interested, they go to the National Trappers Association website. A video on there called "Destroying the Myth."
Ah.
All right, that video shows you how when traps go on, they don't break the bone. They don't even break the skin unless they fight real hard. But most of them just lay right down. And go ahead.
We're losing you a little bit, Mark. We're losing you a little bit. You still there?
Yeah. You hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now a little bit. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep. That's much better. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So the destroying the myth will just it shows you where it destroys the myth that they're inhumane traps, and they're not. They're basically restraining them so that you can go there and get them.
What about snares? Are snares legal in Michigan?
It's a non-lethal cable restraint. They're not snares.
Okay.
Snares, as you see in like Canada and up in Alaska, they're designed to kill the animal. The ones in Michigan are non-lethal. They go down to a thing of about 4.25 inches is the small loop size. So basically, you're just restraining the animal to get there to let it out. If it's a non-target.
And how do those work? Do you set them on a trail and the animal walks through it with their head, or do they step in it, or what?
No, through their head. Through their head, and you set them on trails. You can bait, they're there, so you attract them. You use a big long-range scent, so you attract them to that trail. But you set them on trail high.
You got hundreds of thousands of acres out there of woods and fields and swamps and creeks and critters. How do you know where to set these traps?
Research out in the woods. They're in the woods from, May. All right, constantly in.
Mark, right now, our signal is basically unusable. So I'm
sorry.
Like, hey, you can't control the cell signal. It's not your fault.
No, and I got a cell tower within 500 feet of my house.
Well, so let's try it again. How do you know where to put the traps?
Research. Guys are in the woods from basically May through April. All right, looking for a sign where they're traveling. All right, because even in the summer they'll have paths that you can see, and those paths will be the same thing in December. All right, they're going to travel the same paths. So you just follow. You just research. A lot of guys trout fish All right, so you're on the rivers and creeks, and you see signs of mink and rats and beaver, bobcat and coon. So you realize, okay, come October, November, this is where I'm going to start setting some traps. There seems to be a lot of activity in this area.
Is going after the water animals like the muskrat, the mink, and the beaver, is that significantly different than coyotes or something like that?
In a way, it is, because with coyotes and dryland sets, your scent is key, because if they smell you, they're not going there. But in water, you got a little bit less, chance of having scent all around. So there's a little less activity there. Plus, 90% of the time in the water sets, or I'd say 75% of the time, you're drowning the animal, and it's going to be it'll be right there. So there's less chance of them pulling out and going away.
What's the easiest animal in Michigan to trap? What would somebody start on?
More than likely, we start the kids on red squirrels and weasels. They seem to be the easiest and ones to trap, and then we move them to muskrat and mink, and then they start going after coons and beaver, and then after that, then they get into the land animals. Coyotes are probably one of the harder ones to catch, because of one mistake and that set's ruined.
Does that then make a coyote kind of the ultimate accomplishment, or is there something in Michigan that's like every trapper wants to get?
Right now, it's fisher and martin and bobcat. That's the three trophy animals people call trophy animals, but they're really not, because we are starting to get a very good population of martin and fisher in the UP, and there is some down in the lower now. And bobcat, there is quite a few around, and so people want to catch them.
What's the difference between a martin and a fisher? I don't think I couldn't tell you.
All right, fisher is, well, one thing is black. It's the bigger of the two. It get a lot of times it'll get confused. People will see a dark fox, a dark colored fox, and call it a fisher. Mm-hmm. They're about the same size. Little fishers are a little bit smaller. Martin are like a mink. They're about the size of a mink. A little bit a large mink, and they run around in the hardwoods mainly. You catch them lying on the pines and that thing like that. They're red squirrel eaters. They love red squirrels and other fruits and nuts.
Well, like I said, you trappers are the most knowledgeable people out there, Mark. I would send people to your website, Michigan, MTPCA.com, for the Michigan Trappers and Predator Callers Association. You mentioned the National Trappers Association website as well to check out that video to debunk the myths about trapping today. Mark, I appreciate the full fact that you guys are out there, and I appreciate the fact that you're working so hard to educate younger folks especially. Keep up the good work, and we'll talk again soon.
All right, Mike, thank you for your time.
All right, my pleasure. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, we'll take a look at the 100th anniversary of the DNR with Maia Turek, and then this week's Ask Avery segment right here on Outdoor Magazine. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. My name is Mike Avery. So glad to have you along with us. We do this for 3 hours each week, talking about the great outdoors, the history and tradition of the outdoor lifestyle here in the great state of Michigan. You can hear the show in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold, WCBY, AM and FM, 1240 AM, 100.7 FM. You can hear us in Houghton Lake on the Twister, 92.1 WTWS, and you can hear us in Lansing on WILS, 1320 AM. We have her, Pat? Good. In a second. Okay. We're trying to get in touch with Maia Turek from the DNR to talk about the 100th anniversary of the DNR. Michigan.gov/DNR is their website. I think they started out as the conservation, what they call the Conservation Corps. I don't remember what it was. Oh, we got to call her back? Okay. All right. Oh, Maia, are you there?
I'm here. Yeah,
hey, Maia.
You were talking to me? Or?
No, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were there. My apologies. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
Wonderful. So you're celebrating a big anniversary, 100 years of the DNR.
Yes.
Pretty cool.
And I'm very excited. 100 years.
So tell me, I thought I was filling time here. It started out as what? The Conservation Department? What was it?
Department of Conservation. Yeah, you might see some little stickers around here and there at some of our office buildings. In fact, there's even a couple of vehicles that are still in use that still have the Department of Conservation logo on them because our team does such a great job of making sure our vehicles stand the test of time.
So when was the switch made to the modern-day DNR?
Oh, it was in the... Oh, that's a great question. You know what? I don't know. I believe it was in the 60s.
All right.
Yeah.
So what are you guys doing for the celebration?
Well, the celebration is actually, we're really focused on telling the stories of what we're seeing, what people have experienced when it comes to recreation, the things that people do and appreciate about the outdoors that we have the privilege of protecting and being stewards of. We're also encouraging people that just need a little bit of a few suggestions on how to get out and about. We've curated this 100 list of 100 things to do to celebrate the DNR in 100 days.
Where do we find that?
If you just go to michigan.gov/DNR, you're going to be able to get into the things to do, and there's information right there.
What types of things are on that list? What are you suggesting?
Well, look for things like our Geo Tour. There's lots of ways you can tap into the world's largest scavenger hunt by geocaching. And there are other things like going fishing, looking for wildflowers. We also have 4 seasons of activities on there. So there's things that you can do both indoors and outdoors even this winter if you want to get a kickstart on it. And just lots of really great things that you can do to just enjoy the outdoors or just learn more about it.
Is the whole COVID situation dampening this celebration, or are you able to work around it in some ways?
Actually, I think not only are we able to work around it, I think we've been able to find some really great opportunities to show that one of the reasons that public lands and public waters are so important is that they need to be available. So when we are in times like these, that you have access to them, public access to them. So it's not all privately owned and unavailable. These trails, these hunting lands, these fishing waters, they're all available to you. They belong to the people of Michigan and are certainly a wonderful economic driver and destination for all 4 seasons.
Well, and this year with everything going on, we're seeing a resurgence in interest in the outdoors. So maybe that's one good thing to come from this all. But I feel like there are more people outdoors hunting and fishing and just enjoying Mother Nature and the solitude and the solace than in years.
Oh, you're absolutely right. We're seeing record numbers in sales of our hunting and our fishing licenses. We're already seeing a 30% increase in camping reservations for the 2021 summer. It's wonderful, and it's one of those things that just warms my heart because I just feel like I want so much for people to really, truly appreciate this that already belongs to them. And I hate the circumstances. There is no silver lining to that, but I'm glad that because of the 100 years of the DNR working so hard to protect and promote and preserve these lands and these waters and to do what we do, we were there when people needed it. And that, to me, is what our agency is about, and hopefully what we are going to be able to continue to do for the next 100 years.
Boy, some of these more popular state parks are tough to get into already, so I was going to make it don't wait till the last minute this year to make your reservations, it sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely. But also now that everybody's kind of telecommuting, a lot of people are able to telecommute, don't forget about the idea that, you can kind of, I like to say, you can work from home or you can kind of work from here, and I'm putting up air quotes, because you have a little more control over where you are. And we have a lot of places that have not only access to Wi-Fi, for example, at our state park campgrounds, but you can also find other places that, homes to rent or hotels to stay in, and then be able to enjoy some of these lesser-known beautiful places in Michigan, even midweek.
That's a great point. People have more flexible schedules. Don't wait till the weekend when things are crowded, and try to take advantage during the middle of the week. 100 years of the DNR. Pretty cool celebration. The website, michigan.gov/DNR, michigan.gov/DNR, for a list of 100 things to do. Maia Turek, appreciate your time, and enjoy the party.
Thanks, you too.
All right, we'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, this week's Ask Avery segment brought to you by our friends from Security Credit Union, talking about the ammo shortage. I've had a lot of questions, people saying, what's going on? Where can I buy ammo? How come it's so expensive? A lot of different thoughts on this, even some conspiracy theories out there about what's going on. So I've done a little research. After the break, I'll tell you what I found right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Muskegon on WKBZ, that's 1090 AM. And you can hear us in Holland on WHTC AM and FM, 1450 AM, 99.7 FM. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you every week by my friends at Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. And the way the Ask Avery segment works, every week, the last segment in the second hour is dedicated to answering your questions. You can direct them to me. It's something you want me to answer, or if you would like to learn something from the DNR or somebody like that you might not be able to reach, but I might be able to get to, you can forward your question through me to them. The best way probably to get those questions to me is email, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. I have a link on my Facebook page where you can just click that and send an email from there as well, or you can hit me up on any of the social media outlets. This week's question, I can't pin down to just one person because everybody is asking this question right now, and it's about the ammo shortage. And it is pretty bad. In fact, I never dreamed that in my lifetime it would be this tough to get ammunition. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but darn near. And it's at the point where it doesn't matter what caliber it is. At first it was just 9 and 380 and 38 or whatever, but now you can't get anything. And there are theories going around, conspiracy theorists. Well, it's all politics, or the government's involved, or whatever, or Martians are buying it all, or whatever. If you want to buy into any of that, go ahead. But here's what I've been able to find out. The shortage is real. There's no doubt about this. It is not a manufactured shortage. You can't buy ammunition right now. Several reasons. One of the factors is we have a tremendous influx of new shooters these days. I think that's great. The more people we can get involved in shooting and hunting, the happier I am. Shooting is a great pastime. It's a lot of fun. It's a skill you can learn. It's a way to put food on the table if you want. And it's also a method to defend yourself and your family as well. But there are a bunch of new shooters in the last year or so who have bought a whole bunch of new guns. And what do they want to do with those new guns? They want to shoot them. And so to shoot them, you got to buy ammunition. So we have more people out there with more guns who want the ammo. When you throw in the fact that this year with a pandemic, a lot of the manufacturers were hamstrung by COVID, in that for a while there, a lot of their people were out sick and they had to slow down production. That impacted things. Remington, a big ammunition manufacturer, went bankrupt. So they weren't making any ammo. Now, they've since been bought, and I think they're back in production. And then you throw on top of that hoarders, because there are some people who just absolutely hoard ammunition. They might have 5,000 rounds of 9mm, and they still want more. And I get that. Okay, I understand that. But, man, if you're set, why don't you leave some on the shelves for somebody else? And then there's also talk, and I don't want to get too political, but we're going into an administration that does not appear to be very gun or shooting friendly. So there's that concern that is making people did make them buy more ammunition. Well, you might say, well, why not just reload? Wouldn't this be a great time to get in reloading and load your own ammunition? Well, it would be, if you could get the material. You can't get 209 primers anywhere, and you need those primers to reload the ammunition. So it's not out there. Price gouging. I talked about this a few weeks ago. When it first started to become real tight, I was talking about the fact that the cost from the manufacturers had not gone up, but some of the local gun shops across the state were price gouging. And they were using the shortage as an opportunity to take advantage of us as shooters. I think that's terrible. If your cost goes up, obviously you have to charge more. But to take advantage of a situation to gouge your loyal customers, I think is despicable. But these days, the price actually has gone up. The manufacturers are charging anywhere from, let's say, 8 to 12%. So let's say a 10% increase. So the retailers are paying roughly 10% more for this ammo now if they can get it. Is that a reason to charge 50% more or double? No. The manufacturers say they can be ramped up to fulfill this demand in about a year. And the experts all say look for it to take another year after that to get the ammunition in the system and to take care of the demand that's out there. So what I'm being told is this ammo shortage expected to last for 2 years or so. 2 years at least. Which is a shame because we should be able to shoot our guns. You want to practice with your guns. You want to enjoy shooting your guns. And everybody's afraid right now to go to the range because you can't get ammunition to replace it. I wish there was a silver lining here, but I don't see it. Thank you to our friends at Security Credit Union for helping to make the Ask Avery segment possible. SecurityCU.org, SecurityCU.org. We'll take a break for the top of the hour. Brad Smyth coming up in hour number 3.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yider Insurance Group, Forward Corporation and T.R. McTaggart, Primal Tree Stands, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polarcraft Boats, Shadow Hunter Blinds, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery. Thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. It has been, up until recently, at least in my part of the state, a fairly mild winter. As we're recording right now, we're going through a little bit of a cold snap, making ice for you ice fishermen. You're happy about that. And as I look at the rundown of this week's show so far, we've been talking primarily about hunting. I know it's hunting, but to me it's hunting. Okay, I know it's creek, but to me it's crick. It's just it's the way I was brought up, and it's always going to be that way. But why don't we talk about a little fishing, or fishing right now too? with Brad Smyth of Detroit Outdoor Adventures. His website, ifishdetroit.com, and the iFish is like iPhone. It's an ifishdetroit.com. I first had Brad on, I think it's been a couple of years ago now, and found him to be very enjoyable, very knowledgeable, very passionate, and a great guest here on the show. And that's why I invited him back this week to shoot the breeze about some wintertime fishing here in Michigan. Brad, welcome back. How are you?
Good, Mike. Thanks for the kind words. I appreciate every opportunity to get to talk to you too.
Well, yeah, it's always fun, and I got to ask, what have you been up to lately? I know Lake St. Clair. There was some great open water action there. Erie had been pretty good as well. Did you have a chance to get in on any of that?
Yeah, I probably fished more this winter than I have in the last few months. It's been a kind of a weird year to say the least.
Yeah.
But we had some incredible opportunities. I hit it pretty hard down in Ohio for the fall brawl with a bunch of friends and my dad, and we caught some nice fish, nothing to weigh. But then we started fishing Michigan waters of Lake Erie, and it was just absolutely some of the most phenomenal walleye fishing I've ever experienced.
Now, explain to us the difference between the Ohio water and the Michigan water. Yeah, I get it. One's in Ohio, one's in Michigan. But what is the structure there different? Is the depth there different? Why is it different fishing so much?
I don't really think it's that much different fishing. It's just the seasonal migration of those walleye. As the season wears on, those fish are going to get ready to stage up to spawn in the Western Basin. So they're going to start to be closer to Michigan water and into Michigan water, where earlier in the fall, they're still transitioning down that southern edge of Lake Erie, coming our way. So it's just a matter of getting yourself in a position where you're going to catch that first wave of big migrators, and it tends that fish seem to school in year class to an extent, especially as it gets closer to the spawn. So sometimes you can go down and we'll find fish on that break that runs between Cedar Point, right there, Huron, and it runs all the way to Cleveland. There's a 40-ish foot break. And those fish they transition right down that like a path. And every year, if you catch them right, you can have some incredible fishing on big fish.
We hear about this migration. Is it in effect a spawning migration? Is that what it revolves around?
I mean, I think it's just a seasonal migration where, yeah, they're going to want to spawn in the Western Basin where the ecosystem's more proficient. It's established for them to do what they're going to do. But then as the water warms and the bait fish move, they start to head to the east where the water's deeper and colder. And then as the season changes again, they come back. It's a big loop. And with some of the studies they have now with the tagging system, where these fish actually get pinged every time they go past one of the transducers in the water. It's amazing to see physically, watch the graph and see the fish moving every year in the same pattern over and over.
Do we see similar migrations on Lake St. Clair and Saginaw Bay?
I don't know. I think Saginaw Bay is more particular to the water temperature, where like this fall, it seemed like the fishing was a lot slower than it had been, but the water stayed a lot warmer, a lot longer. So I feel like, the bait fish that are utilizing that, they're trying to use that edge of the warm and cold water, those currents. If it's not quite right, Saginaw Bay doesn't play as consistently, I would say, as like Lake Erie does.
I realize weather conditions right now, I mean, they can change daily. But as we are recording the show right now, to the best of your ability, are they still fishing open water on Erie and Lake St. Clair?
My buddies fished yesterday. I haven't fished it's been like 3 days since I fished. But
you must be jonesing.
I actually finally pulled all the gear out of the boat again and put the cover on it, and just knowing that, we might be in a little lull here with and I'm so melancholy about it. I'm like, I'm excited to go open water fish, but I really want to ice fish too. So
I guess I didn't realize you were an ice fisherman.
Yeah, I was a lot more passionate about it and a lot more hardcore about it before, my kids and wife and jobs and everything else. I used to fish 50, 60 days a year on the ice.
Really?
And then it was the last few years with the winters we've had. Honestly, I ended up selling my sleds and my trailer just because, it was more of a priority to do other stuff. And then now having the Warrior, it's a very seaworthy boat no matter what the conditions are. So I'm a lot more apt to go fish in sub 40-degree water on the boat when I have a boat like that. So,
that's something I haven't done for a while is go open water fishing in the middle of the winter. I used to do that a lot, but I remember it's kind of a rush. I mean, it's a different environment. It's a whole different thing than summertime, obviously, but it's kind of a unique thing to do.
It really is. And honestly, it's like the more hardcore it is and the less people that are doing it, the more interested I am. My passion's changed over the years where now I really enjoy, sharing it with other people. So if somebody else hasn't done it, I'm more than willing to go do something I've done 1,000 times. But when it comes to this time of year, the only guys that are out there are the fishermen. You don't have to deal with any of the pleasure boaters or anything else going on. And the fishing typically is some of the best of the season, too. So you got to take extra precautions anytime you're fishing when the water's below 40 degrees, whether it's on the ice or on the boat. There's a lot of extra things that we take into consideration just to be safe, because it is a pretty dangerous game we're playing, and there's no fish worth our lives. There's no doubt about that.
Well, I mean, obviously, if you fall into 40-degree water, you're in trouble. But are you talking about things like ice forming on the boat from spray and changing the ride or the list on the boat, or what are you talking about, Brad?
Well, that's definitely something to take into consideration. We've accumulated some pretty solid ice on the boat. Nothing like you've seen on the Deadliest Catch where they're hammering it off. But, we've accumulated some ice, but more than anything, I make sure that I have more than one propane heat source on the boat. I have a tons of hand warmers just for comfort. I have dry bags with extra clothing. We have a preparedness plan where if someone were to fall in or get wet, because a lot of times when we're fishing, it's cold and it's windy and the waves are moving and with the deck gets a little slippery. If something happens, you've got to be prepared. You're not in trouble unless you're not prepared.
Yeah, I got you. You talked about a Warrior. Isn't that a new boat for you?
This is gonna be my third year running the Warrior V2121, and okay. I can't say enough good things. They actually. They just released a new model called the V238, and I'm really interested in getting into that for the next season. But, it's an incredible deep hull, big water walleye tournament fishing boat. I mean, it's an amazing vessel for what we do.
Is walleye your passion?
Yeah, if I could perch fish 365, I'd probably be more. I'm a perch fisherman by heart, but the walleye are more obtainable throughout the entire year. So I kind of bounce back and forth. And then I love salmon and trout fishing. I grew up doing that, but it becomes seasonal. What kind of spawning class do we have? What kind of return do we have? Last few years, it's been really good, and it's been fun, but yeah, I guess, walleye fishing is my profession and I definitely love it.
You talk about perch fishing. To me, it's like I can't figure out if perch fishing is a voodoo science or if it's an art form or what, because I never have any luck. And then when I do get into fish, it takes me a while to figure out how to hook the darn things because I'm not used to that tap, tap, tap. It's in some ways, I think it's a lost art because I don't think perch fishing is as big as it used to be in the old days, I think.
Well, I think we went through a transition where our year classes of fish with the transition with the zebra mussels and the gobies and everything else and just the fishing in general, like back in the late 70s, perch fishing was phenomenal and people could go out and, just reel them up. Well, as things changed and our population shrunk, I think less and less people chase them too. And it's harder to go target a school of perch as opposed to target a school of walleye when there's 10 times as many walleye.
Yeah. One thing about perch, though, it's the one fish I've seen that consistency over the years. If you've got a good perch bite going on, people will quit fishing salmon, they'll quit fishing muskies, they'll quit fishing walleye, they'll quit fishing bass. If they can go catch a mess of perch, they're going to go after it.
That is the truth. And I'll tell you what, on Monday, I was planning on going out. I had Pastor Larry Jennings down from Traverse City, and me and him and my dad and one of our friends from the Trophy Ranch up in Ubley, we were all going, we were going to go walleye fishing. We were going to troll Grosse Point where we've been catching the walleye. Well, I got a phone call about an incredible perch bite. So you know what happened?
Yeah.
We switched gears, and we went to chase that perch bite. Well, I knew my better judgment that the wind wasn't going to be right for it the next day after I got the report, but I still had to go see for myself. So we ended up putting about 50 miles on the lake on Monday, and we got pretty cold.
Hang tight, Brad. Got to take a break. More with Brad Smyth here on Outdoor Magazine after the break. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Ludington on News 97.98, 98.7 LDN. And just up the road in Manistee and WMLQ 97.7 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Great Lakes Charter Training. If you've ever wanted to be a charter captain, I think this is your best option. It's the way I got my license. It's a pretty big ordeal. I mean, there's a lot involved, and you're going to have some expense involved. But you know what? If you want to be a captain, it's what you're going to have to go through. The problem with becoming a captain is you got to take that Coast Guard exam, and that's not easy. But the folks at Great Lakes Charter Training guarantee that if you take their class, you will pass that Coast Guard exam, and then they will walk you through the process of submitting all the paperwork and the physicals and the drug testing and everything else that goes along with it. I am convinced I would not have been able to get my captain's license without the folks from Great Lakes Charter Training. And if you are even remotely interested in doing the same, I would encourage you to seriously check them out. The website is glctraining.com, glctraining.com. I'm talking now with a captain. His name is Brad Smyth from Detroit Outdoor Adventures. His website, ifishdetroit.com, ifishdetroit.com. Brad, I apologize for cutting you off for our commercial there, but you were talking about a perch outing. So did you actually get some fish?
No, we zeroed out on the perch fishing. So it was, like I said, we ended up putting 50 miles on the boat that day because we went on not a wild goose chase, but I kind of knew better. It was one of those things where, experience told me it probably wasn't going to work out, but I figured we had to go see for ourselves because the wind changed, and that south wind coming up Lake St. Clair will make that north end like a washing machine. The waves are bouncing off the shore coming back, and it just it can churn up the water pretty good, and especially perch. They're not going to hang out in 5-6 foot of water with with those waves rolling. They don't like that. They'll transition out to the deep or shove up in the canals, one of the two. So
you were saying that with you was Larry Jennings. Is he the guy from Jonah Jigs I've had on the show before?
He is indeed. Yeah, he's one of my best friends. Yep.
I first got turned on to him through you, and I've had him on the show a couple of times. It's pretty interesting what he's done there.
Yeah, and that's the other thing that's become a real passion for, me through him was vertical jigging for lake trout and salmon, seasonally. And it's just been, it's really changed my fishing in general, where walleye fishing, I wouldn't necessarily have ever tried to fish individual fish like we do lake trout fishing. So, we share both of, separate passions, but we've kind of used each other's knowledge to, hone our skills doing different things where, vertical jig and lake trout out in, Grand Traverse Bay, you can physically see an individual fish on your graph that you're going to target. And I've become a lot more confident doing that in 30 to 40 feet of water fishing walleye and finding specific fish and fishing those individual fish. All
right. You got to tell me more about this. You have piqued my curiosity.
Yeah, I mean, short of having the new live technology, whether it's, Garmin or Lowrance, using your traditional sonar, just like when you're ice fishing, it's basically open water vertical jigging. We fish through the ice in a solid location. We're sitting there, we're not moving, and we're using electronics to, see the fish and see our bait. Well, you can do the same thing open water with the new technology with the spot lock on our trolling motors. It has to be the right day. It can't be too rough. But at the same time, it is an absolute blast to individually target a fish and catch it.
That is pretty cool. Wow. And
it goes back to trusting your electronics.
Well, and I'm sorry. I kept talking over you. I just want to make one point. As much as I love to troll, there's nothing like having that rod in your hand when a fish bites.
No, absolutely.
And you were talking
trolling is
about
a lot of fun.
Here I go again. Jeez, I'm sorry. I don't know if I got a delay in the phone or what that's screwing me up. But you talk about trusting electronics. The electronics these days are the most sophisticated and high tech. I can't believe we have units like this on our boats these days.
It's unreal, Mike. It really is. It's a special time, and especially if you are willing to take the time to learn how to use it and trust it, you're going to be a lot more successful. I mean, the fish cannot hide from sonar. So when we go out on Lake Erie, we were coming out of Sterling State Park, and I'll honestly tell you, I fished 4 out of 6 days, and I didn't fish the same spot twice. I went back to the last known location from the night before, and those fish just weren't there. And if I would have just started fishing, we would have wasted a lot of time. Instead, I graphed the area, realized that they're not there, and then moved on. And then eventually we saw those fish, and we knew that, all right, this is where they're at now, and then put our baits in the water. And it really speeds up the amount of effort you're going to have trying to find them and just concentrate on the effort of trying to catch them.
And how far had they moved?
A couple miles.
Okay.
It was pretty much a couple miles every time between where I caught them and where we found them again. So you've got to really trust those electronics. If you don't see the hooks, you don't see the marks, and they're not down there, they're just not down there. There's no sense in just dragging baits around and hope you run into them. Find those fish first and then set up on them, and you're going to be a lot more successful. It's counterintuitive to just drive around for 2 or 3 hours when you could be fishing, because we know you're never going to catch one without a hook in the water. But if you don't fish where the fish are, you're not going to be nearly as successful. A day where you might have caught a couple could be a day where you caught 20 or 30.
I know. Are you reading my mind right now, Brad? Because that's the way I look at things. I just want to fish, right? I'm going to put baits in the water because I know I got a chance of catching fish. But I hear guys like you, I hear guys like Lance Valentine talking about this over and over. Don't fish where the fish aren't. It doesn't make any sense. Well, I get it. But it's hard to get it through my brain sometimes.
It's tough. It is tough, especially with people on the boat that aren't as experienced as I am, and they're just looking at me like I'm crazy because I'm not fishing. I'm like, we're out here to go fishing, and we're not fishing. We're driving around. But honestly, there's no sense in fishing until you're on the right spot where those fish are. So I've turned a handful of people into believers. Some of my biggest critics, some of my friends that were just, they weren't sold until I showed them. Now they're willing to drive around. We'll just sit there and listen to the radio and hang out and BS and enjoy the day regardless till we find those fish, and then we'll actually put some hooks in the water.
Is side scan, is that the real deal, or is that just marketing hype?
Oh, no. Side scan is absolutely, absolutely incredible technology. The only thing that's better than the down scan side scan technology is the new live imaging. So, like I said, whether it's Lowrance or Garmin, whatever system you use, the new live technology is absolutely incredible.
I don't know much about that.
I can know exactly how far those fish are away from the boat. I can make a pass down a spot where I know where I think they should be, and I can scan 100 feet to the side, and I can see those fish that whether they're 30 or 50 or 80 feet away, and then I can reposition myself to make casts at them, or if I'm going to troll. Typically when I'm using the side scan, I'm doing more of a rod and hand technique. When I'm trolling, I'm using more just the down imaging because I'm going to be covering water anyway.
Is there a depth of water that's ideal for side scan? Can I use it up in real shallow water, or is it designed for deeper water?
No, that's the thing. Side scan it's more beneficial in shallower water. The deeper the water gets, the less effective the side imaging is going to be. So typically, like Lake St. Clair, I live on my side imaging. I'll throw it on my HDS 12. The whole thing will just be a side scan. And then I'll have an HDS 9 where I have my down scan and my sonar, my chart. Out on Lake Erie, and I'm 30, 40, 50 feet of water. Well, now I'm going to be doing it the opposite, where I might have a side scan image on a small square, but the big square is going to be my down imaging because your transducer cone is shooting at a 20-degree angle, give or take. So the deeper the water, the more you're going to see with the down imaging. When you're in that shallow water in Lake St. Clair fishing 15 feet of water, I don't expect to mark a lot of fish right below the boat. I'm looking for those fish on that side imaging to know that they're there, because the cone angle is so small under the boat that it's almost irrelevant.
So what are you looking for? You're not going to see a traditional hook like you would on a sonar. Are you looking for the shadow that the fish casts, or what?
Yep. It'll kind of look like it looks like a grain of rice with a shadow. And the more you stare at it, and listen, I had the technology for how many years before I actually sat there and just drove around and looked at it for a day and spent some hours studying it and understanding it, interpreting it. And you can literally start to see the difference in the bottom change, where it'll go from a sand or a rock bottom. You can start to pick that up and see it. And then you'll start to be able to separate targets, whether it's a weed bed or a fish or a rock. It just takes time. You just got to stare at it, Mike. I'm telling you. Just drive around and stare at it, and eventually you're going to understand it over time.
So you're using side imaging. Then are you using standard sonar looking down, or are you using down scan looking down?
Both, because typical standard 2D sonar facing down is going to not separate the target as detailed as the down imaging is, but I like to cross-reference. So I can see something on my traditional 2D sonar that I have the most experience with and I have, the most confidence in, then I can interpret that on the down scan and the side scan. So I can see a fish that we went over, and I can tell you what side of the boat it was on and how far it was away, and be able to pick out exactly where that fish was on all three images.
That is actually a great idea. Use your sonar. Well, I'm thinking in my case, my sonar that I know how to read to help me figure out the down scan.
Yep. I put on my normal setup on my HDS 12. I'll have 4 screens where I have my chart, I have my traditional 2D sonar, I have my down scan, and I have my side scan. And doing that in any normal, 15 to 20 foot of depth of water, I can pretty much tell you what's going on, and then translate it and just, reassure myself from one stream to the next. And I'm telling you, it really makes it nice to be able to have them right there together. It'll cut the learning curve in half.
Well, that's something I got to spend more time on this spring. In fact, I'm looking forward to it. Not being an ice fisherman, I can't wait to get the Angler Quest out there on Saginaw Bay and chase some walleye. And I am. I'm going to spend more time playing with those electronics. Brad Smyth, always a pleasure. The website, ifishdetroit.com. And the company is Detroit Outdoor Adventures. Thank you, Brad. We'll talk again soon.
Oh, thank you, Mike. You take care, and we'll talk soon.
I will look forward to it. Brad Smyth from Detroit Outdoor Adventures, iFish Detroit, and it's iFish like iPhone, the letter I, ifishdetroit.com. A real good guy, and obviously very knowledgeable, as you can tell. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. I want to talk about a few more, if I can get my voice back, a few more things, and of course we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Minar. That's right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Saginaw and what used to be called the old Tri-Cities on WSGW AM and FM, 790 AM, 100.5 FM. I'm in the studios of WSGW right now, here with Pat Johnston, doing a wonderful job as always. I wouldn't be able to do the show without you, Pat. Appreciate it very much. I always know when I come into the studio, I'm in good hands. It's either going to be Pat here or Charlie Rude. And the thing that I appreciate about working with these guys is they take it seriously. They have a sense of, I think, a sense of ownership. I feel like there's a sense of ownership, Pat, and you guys, you take it serious, and I appreciate that. Thank you. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Wilds Plumbing and Heating. From plumbing, heating, air conditioning, sump pumps, ductwork cleaning, you name it. Everything to keep you warm or dry, depending on the season, and comfortable in your house. The folks at Wilds can take care of it. In fact, we're going to do a little remodeling project coming up here in the next couple of weeks, and it's going to involve some drywall work and some sanding, and you know what a mess that makes. So I think it's going to be time to get the folks from Wilds out to clean out the ductwork again. But it doesn't matter what it is. Plumbing, heating, air conditioning, anything from fixing a shower to put in a new furnace. The folks from Wilds can help you out. Check them out online at wildsplumbingandheating.com. That's wildsplumbingandheating.com. Looking back at the rundown for this week, and sometimes I tell you, sometimes it feels like the show just flies by, and this has kind of been one of them. Talking with Brad Smyth, I love talking with people like that. People who are very knowledgeable and very passionate, and they have the ability to share that knowledge and passion with others. And in fact, that's what makes for a great radio guest, right? A couple of other things here. Check the Michigan DNR Facebook page, because by the time you hear this show, or shortly, if you're listening early Saturday morning, the DNR will have listed their Pure Michigan Hunt winners on the Facebook page. Now, I'm going to be one of them. I'll tell you that right now. So that still leaves room for 2 others. I was going back through I was looking to get a turkey license online. I thought, how many Pure Michigan chances did I buy this year? More than I had realized. I think it was one of those things where, hey, I'm online. I'm at the DNR website. Why don't I buy a couple of Pure Michigan chances? And then I'd kind of forget about that I did it. And a couple of months later, I'm going to buy 2 or 3 or 4 more. So I should win it this year. So if I win the Pure Michigan Hunt, I will certainly tell you about it next year. That's for sure. What else is going on? Southern part of the state starting to get some ice. But of course, the conditions can change quickly. Don't take my word for it. Check it out yourself. The ammo shortage continues. I was talking about this in the Ask Avery segment of the second hour of the show. No signs that it's going to slow down anytime or get better anytime in the next, 2 years I'm hearing. 2 years. Who would have thought? I am starting to become very nervous, isn't the word, about my hunts in Canada this year. I thought last year, after I had to cancel my springtime Quebec bear hunt and my August Ontario bear hunt, I thought, well, at least I've got next year coming up. I never dreamed that by the following year we would be dealing with the same thing. I mean, I would be shocked, stunned, if I could go on that Quebec bear hunt in May, and I'm getting to the point where I'm going to be surprised even if I can go to Ontario in August, and that absolutely breaks my heart. I look forward to that so much, and I don't think I can get a bear tag for Michigan this year. The only way would be to go third season in the UP, but I don't think I can even get one third season in the Newberry District. I'm going to try. So anyway, I'm looking forward to turkey season. That's what's coming up here soon, right? COVID can't screw up my turkey season. What it does is it puts more people in the woods and make the opening day sound like the opening day of gun season, but I can deal with that. If you want to try out one of those Primal Tree Stands, Wraith 270 see-through ground blinds I've been talking about for the past few months, I got a deal for you. If you go to the website outdoorpregame.com, and use the promo code Mike20, you can get one of those blinds for just $200. They'll charge you $20 when you make the order and $180 when they ship it out. $200 for one of these see-through blinds. I'm very impressed with them. The quality is excellent. The design is excellent. I've hunted deer, turkeys, and bear out of them now, and really enjoy it. I think it's a great deal. Outdoorpregame.com, promo code Mike20. And finally, if you're on social media and you haven't joined me yet for a Wednesday night live, I would really encourage you to do that. I do it every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern. It's on my Facebook page. It's on my YouTube channel. It's on my Vimeo feed. It's on Twitter, my Vimeo page, I should say, my Twitter feed. Have not figured out a way to get it on Instagram yet, but I continue to work on it. We have a lot of giveaways, sometimes multiple giveaways on each show. It gives us a chance to interact a little bit more than we can here on the radio show, because the radio show, it's you listening to me talk, but on our Wednesday night lives and even Wednesday morning lives from the studio, We have a chance to go back and forth a little bit, to ask some questions, to answer some questions, and just have a lot of fun. So I would encourage you to join me for that. So we'll take a break here on the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Minar right here on Outdoor Magazine. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. My name is Mike Avery. So glad to have you along with us. And if you have heard the show before at all, you know I love to wrap up each week's show with my good friend, wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Minar. And I'm not going to let you down this week because Dave is with us once again. David, welcome back. How are you?
I'm doing very good, Michael. Isn't it just nice and warm out there today? Man, oh man.
I don't...
Unseasonably warm.
You must live someplace different than I do, because I thought it was pretty chilly this morning.
It is. I'm just teasing you.
Making ice, though, for the folks who love ice fishermen, making ice.
Yeah, I'm going to try ice fishing this year.
Well, hey, you got all this time on your hands. You might as well make the most of it, right?
No. I'm gonna give it. I got all my gear ready. I'm just waiting for people to tell me that it's going to be safe, and I'm going to try it. Got my 4-wheeler all ready to go and everything.
Oh, good deal. Good deal. Well, before I'm not much of an ice fisherman. I appreciate the offer, and I've done it a lot in the past, but it's just not for me anymore. Maybe I'm getting too old and too soft. I don't know.
Same here, but I'm going to try it. I got the spears all sharpened up and new rope up, and going to try it.
If I was going to be on the ice, it would be to go spearing, because I am fascinated by that. I think that's very, very cool.
Oh, well, if I do good, I'll let you know. If I don't do any good, I ain't going to say nothing to nobody.
There you go.
Anyway, I got a nice rabbit recipe, you know. A lot of people I talk to say the rabbit season has just been wonderful. I've seen all kind of pictures of different people, so
good,
doing good. So it's a wild rabbit and wild rice casserole. It's great. You know, you're going to do this, so it's going to be actually falling off of the bone when it's all done. So you need your rabbits cut into about 8 to 10 pieces each. This could be a nice dish for about 2 to 3 rabbits, you know. Make sure you pick all the hair and any shot driven into the meat. You're going to need 1.5 cups of wild rice blend. You can buy that in a small box, and that's just about enough there for that. You're going to need, I like to use that Better Than bouillon. You can buy it in a grocery store, chicken base. You need 1 medium large onion diced fine, 2 stalks of celery diced medium to fine, 2 carrots, same thing. And then you're going to take a large red bell pepper, which is real nice sweet, you know. And then you want to dice that up, too. Take the little veins out of it and the seeds. You're going to need about a half a tablespoon each, or teaspoon of basil and oregano. And if you like, you're going to grate fresh pepper over the meat before you flour it. 2 to 3 cloves of garlic. Now, you're going to make a rice ratio of 2 water, 1 rice. So it's going to be 2 to 1. So if you're going to use 2 cups or 1.5 cups, it's either going to be, say, 3 or 4 cups of water. So 2 to 3 tablespoons of butter. And if you like a zippy dish, by all means, you can use Cajun or cayenne. A little bit of flour and some olive oil. So, like I said, you're going to grind the fresh black pepper all over the meat. Flour it, shake it up good, brown it in a hot pan, small amount of oil. Do this in batches so you don't crowd it, so you can do a real nice job, you know, to seal in the flavor. You're going to put the meat in an oven-proof casserole, and then you're going to wipe the pan out with a paper towel. Saute all your vegetables and spices up in 2 to 3 tablespoons of butter, or a couple of minutes, 2 to 3, just to break the flavor loose. Add rice, stir it really well. You want to coat each grain with the melted butter. And then you're going to put the water in. Remember, 2 to 1. Add the bouillon. Stir that up real good. Now taste it. Now is the time you want to adjust the flavor if need be. So, and if you want cayenne or Cajun in it, now to zip it up, now's the time. Return the meat, or put the rice mixture with the meat in an oven-proof baking pan. Cover it with maybe foil if you like, or if you got a casserole that has a lid, cover it up, bake it 350 degrees for about an hour and a half. And at that time, you want to check and see, because the meat could be very tender, maybe even a little earlier, depending on the age of the rabbits. And if it's not done in an hour and a half, then check the meat every 15 minutes. You want to check the meat and make sure it's falling off the bone. It's going to be a wonderful dish, and you can make this mild if people in your family aren't too keen on zippy dishes. But if you like a little zing to it, the Cajun and or cayenne pepper would just be wonderful.
And this is called a rabbit casserole? Rabbit casserole?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a rabbit and wild rice casserole.
Now, what is Hassenpfeffer? That's rabbit, right?
Yes, it is. It's a German dish. Simmered
okay.
rabbit dish. Very, very famous.
Yes.
We can do that if you want. I got a Hassenpfeffer recipe.
You know what? Let's do that next week, just because I love to hear the word Hassenpfeffer.
It does sound pretty cool.
All right, Dave. Always a pleasure. Have a good week. We'll talk to you next time, my friend.
Thanks a lot. Hey, if everybody goes on the ice, be safe, man.
Absolutely.
Make sure it's safe. Please, I don't want to hear about folks going through.
Good advice from wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Minar, a big part of the Outdoor Magazine show, as are you, because if you weren't listening, there'd be no reason for me to do the show, the podcast version of the show, the podcast on the network, any of the social media stuff, none of the Wednesday Night Lives. It wouldn't make any sense anymore. So the fact that you are listening to my voice right now means a lot. I do certainly appreciate it. Check out during the week the website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, the Facebook page, Instagram, YouTube, Wednesday Night live from the studio as well. And you can always get in touch with me via email. The address is Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Tell me what's on your mind, what you like, what you don't like, and what you'd like to hear on the show. That's Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My name is Mike Avery, and I'll talk with you next time right here on Outdoor Magazine.